Hey everyone, Mystic here. So today I felt like recording a little bit of a post-commentary video for my recent video essay, Why Fairy Dance is Awful. I just wanted to talk about some of the behind the scenes, a little bit about the other green screen video I made, Maguire versus Oberon, and I also wanted to talk about some of the things that I couldn't really talk about in the actual video essay. Now, a couple things to note. Mainly, the first thing is I actually have a new microphone that I'm recording with. I'm having trouble with it, apparently. I'm hearing this buzzing noise, but I won't worry about it right now. The other thing is, I want to mention, I actually don't know what the state of the video is at this time. Currently, I'm actually fighting with Aniplex on it a little bit, as I woke up this morning, the morning I'm recording this, and the video is blocked globally, so I have disputed the claim, and we'll see what happens. I'm hoping I can get the video back up. I've got plans for if it doesn't work out, but that's what I'm dealing with, so we'll see what happens. So this might just be an out-of-pocket post-commentary. I'm not sure. This video, for all I know, might get claimed. I don't know, but anyways, I think we'll start off by talking about the behind the scenes. Starting with the behind the scenes here, back in high school is when I came up with the idea for this video. I had recently watched Fairy Dance and was so appalled by it, I was like, I'm going to make a video essay. So I just started writing the script. This was back in 2021, and I was going to go through with it. I was really confident I was, and then I got into it. I wrote the intro and then the overview, a little bit of the overview, and I was like, I'll wait on this. And so I waited, and I didn't write anything, and eventually I actually gave up on the idea, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to make it an actual essay. I was going to write an actual essay about why Fairy Dance was bad, and I renamed the document, everything. Originally, actually, the video was going to be called Why ALO is Awful, but I changed it because I was like, Fairy Dance is the arc. It'd be better just talk about that instead of referencing the game that it takes place in. But yeah, I wrote part of it back in high school. A couple years go by, I don't think about it. And then I was like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And I decided that I would go back and actually make the video. So we have to skip forward to August of 2023. I decide, this is before my sophomore year of college, I was like, I'm going to write a script for this video. And so I did. It took about a week. It was a lot, but I was able to write it. I had enough drive to finish it. And so I did so. Then I was going to record it, and I did. It took a little bit, but I recorded the entire thing. While I was doing this, I actually made my first actual video on the channel, which was the Drift King Gets a Roof Repair video. And so I was editing that after I think it was after I recorded the video or the audio for the Fairy Dance video. So I recorded that. It took a lot. And I had to change the script a couple of times, but I did it. And that was done. I had the recording, and I was going to edit. So I started the editing process in Canva. Here's a tip for all of you video makers out there. Never use Canva for a video like this, because it sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. Because it is so limited in what you can do. You can't even have like multiple tracks as far as I'm aware. You have the video track and the audio track, and that's it. That's all you get. So I started it there, and you might notice an issue within the video itself is that the quality of some of the images is off. That's because they're GIFs. I started out with this idea, I'm going to get enough GIFs to make this 30-minute video. I was a fool. I'm going to have to turn this audio down. Whew. But yeah, it was insane. So I started with that, and that's why the quality of them mashed a little bit, because some of the stuff I used at the beginning were GIFs. Eventually, I realized that wasn't feasible, but for now, I didn't. So I was going to edit with Canva, and then I just didn't edit for months at all. I would pop in and edit here and there, but not a lot. So I didn't really get much done. Eventually, because of the Drift King video for RT Game, I started using Shotcut. And eventually I converted the video to Shotcut because I'm like, I'm not using Canva at all. It's not happening. I got maybe 2 minutes of the video edited through Canva, and I was like, no. So I downloaded it. Also got the transitions and some other stuff done, but that's not that big of a deal. But anyways, I eventually ditched Canva for Shotcut and ported the video over. It was weird. I had to divide into 2 parts because I'm glad I actually ditched Canva because Canva came and download 30-minute videos. So I was like, well. So anyways, I eventually switched over and started back on the video. So I didn't really get back to editing it until July of 2024. Almost a year after I had originally wrote the script. So I edited the video, and I got further than I got before. I got about, I'd say 10 minutes in. I did the rest of the overview. I did Leaf's part, and then I did Asana's part. That was back in July, and then I quit for several months. August, September, October, I didn't edit at all. I just did not have the motivation. I didn't want to. And also, I've been writing a book this whole time. As of recording this, I'm still writing it, but that was taking a lot of my time. I was trying to catch up on that. And I just didn't really have the room for it. So I didn't edit the video. So flash forward to December. It was actually late November. It was late November 2024. As of recording this like a month ago, I finally got around to doing Kirito's part. And I had trouble. It was the hardest part to edit. Because it was really difficult to go in and try to find the clips that I wanted to use. So, I just had to really dig deep and do it. Look for the clips, put them in. And these aren't hard edits. I'm just putting clips on top of the video I already have and cutting them where I need to. And it was hard. Honestly, it was really difficult for me to sit down and do Kirito's part, but eventually I really sat down and finally finished it. After months, I was like, let me get this done. So I finally got that done, breathed a sigh of relief, and I moved on to the climax. So this was, at this point, like 2 weeks ago. And I started editing, I think it was, I'm recording this on December 29th. I think it was, I want to say about like December 17th. It was December 17th. So 12 days ago from when I'm recording this is when I started editing the rest of it. I blitzed through it. So when I was done with Kirito's part, I was at about the 15-minute mark. I think that's actually the day I finished Kirito's part. I was at the 15-minute mark. So, like, halfway through the video, almost. And by a week later, I had finished the video. So, that entire week, my main focus was, one, editing my book. The first draft of it, at least. And of what I had done. And 2, was editing the video. And I did it rigorously. I went from the 15-minute mark, again, to, like, the 30-minute mark in, like, a couple of days. Just blitzing through it. And I'll tell you one thing, I never want to watch Fairy Dance again. Oh my god. It was abysmal sitting through that climax. Oh, I'm scarred. I had to watch the clips over and over and over again. And I had to sit there and like frame by frame, like, oh, here's where it ends, here's where I need to cut it. It was, ugh. don't watch Fairy Dance. I'll get to that later, actually. I'll get to that in the supplemental notes. But it was crazy, but I felt really good. I finished the video on Christmas Eve. That's when I finished editing it. And I downloaded it on the day after Christmas. I watched through it twice. I watched the whole video twice for quality control. Fixed a couple things, and then I uploaded it at around, I want to say like 11 a.m. on December 27th. And it was up. I was feeling really good about myself. I was like, man, this is great. I finally have this video that I started in high school up. And then, of course, 2 days later, it gets blocked globally by Aniplex. So, you know, fuck you, Aniplex. Anyway. So that's where we're at. And that's just some of what I dealt with. I learned a little bit from doing this, but honestly, the video is not as good as I wanted it to be. I feel like the script is weak. My editing could use some work. I'm hoping to switch software at some point from Shotcut to DaVinci Resolve. But yeah, I learned that I do have room for improvement. But I'm hoping if I do any more video essays, I'm hoping to really hone in and actually improve my skill and learn. So that's my takeaway. Anyways, now we're actually going to talk about the Bully Maguire versus Oberon video. So, with the Bully Maguire versus Oberon video, I came up with the idea while I was on vacation a couple months ago. I'll joke about like certain characters showing up during the climax of ALO or Fairy Dance, and one of the characters I'll joke about occasionally is, you know, what if Bully Maguire just came in just like dun 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 dun. So I decided, you know what? Let me make it a reality. I've been watching a lot of Bully Maguire green screen memes, so here we go. So I when I got home, at least, I started working on the video. Now, I came down with COVID back in September, so it was the perfect opportunity for me to just sit around and edit this video all day. So I did that. I grabbed a bunch of scenes of Bully Maguire. That was the easy part, because there's a limited amount of them. And then I had to grab the scenes of Oberon in the climax, and that was a trip. I've seen that climax, at least a lot of scenes of it, probably at least a dozen times. I hate it. I hate it. So, yeah, I watched through that, and I would find a clip that's like, oh, this works together. So I put together some funny stuff. Honestly, I'm not too mad about it. I do notice a problem. There's one issue I take with the video. One is the background I use for Maguire's scenes, as it's just is after Kirito frees Asuna. I just had to use that because there wasn't a good background shot that I could find. So it's like, well, I don't really have a choice. But there's one point where the background disappears, and that sucked, but I didn't want to go back and edit it. It was going to be too difficult, so I was like, I'm just going to let it go. I noticed mistakes like that a lot, but yeah, it was a fun video to make. I actually enjoyed it. Yeah, it was interesting for sure. But yeah, I edited it through September over about the course of a week, and then I finished it and uploaded it. You can actually go watch it right now. I'll probably have it at the end card. It's actually at the end card of the Fairy Dance video. So, yeah. The thumbnail, though, I took a Smash Bros. Like versus screen, put a little versus like graphic on it, and then edited an image of Bully Maguire on one side and Oberon on the other. Trying to get Oberon chroma keyed was a whole other affair, but I did that and I made that the thumbnail. Pretty funny, I think. I used to make memes back in high school. They weren't good, but that's kind of where I got the idea from. I used Pixlr for that, and then once again I used Shotcut to actually edit the video. Yeah, it took about a week. Overall, it was a pretty fun little video to make. And in general, yeah, it was a nice little break And the reason this actually has to do with this in the first place is I made this during the process of making the fairy dance video. It was a good break from it. And I would even go back and watch it during the actual, like, while editing the fairy dance video, because I was just like, I need a break. I need something funny. And Boy Maguire is quite funny, so I suggest you check it out. It's a pretty fun video. But with that said, now I think it's time we talk about the supplemental notes. Now, before we talk about the actual supplemental notes, there's a little fun trivia fact I want to talk about. So, I used royalty-free music for the transitions in the video, and a lot of them I picked based on a vibe. So, say for Leafa section is a little bit more upbeat, I guess. The conclusion is a little bit more mellow. For the climax is a little bit more dramatic. To kind of fit the vibe of the section. There is one section, however, that I did not do that for. And that section would be for Asana's section. So, you might notice that the song that I chose for Asana's section isn't exactly, I guess, a fit for her character. It's more of like a techno theme. I mean, less so than like Kirito's, but because Kirito's like a Kim Possible theme, but it doesn't really fit her overall character in my opinion. However, I chose it for a reason. So a lot of you probably don't know the song. I didn't know the song, but the song itself is called Cages by Density and Time. So I was like, yeah, that's about right. That accurately describes Asana's character. So that's why I chose it. It's just a little fun fact. I think it's kind of neat. But getting to the actual supplemental notes, I am going to read through the entire script. Now, I'm not going to actually read the script. I implore you to go watch the video if it's up, so that you can actually know what I said, because I'm just going to expand upon points and just kind of talk about things that I didn't include and talk about more of my raw thoughts on the matter rather than what I scripted on here. So that's what we're going to do here. Anyways, we're going to start in the overview because that's where the information really starts. Now, actually, there is one thing I am going to mention from the intro. So, I mentioned in the video, this is a quote from my script, everyone is into their own things, and if you like essay as a whole, I won't judge. A lot of this is just my opinion. Now, I don't believe this anymore. Here's the thing. This isn't my opinion. Fairy dance is objectively bad. There is no argument that you can say that it is good. I've seen a lot of people try to defend it, and I thought going into this video, I assumed it was universally agreed this arc sucked. That's why I said this, because like, as for a little bit of my warning, no, it's not. People will defend this and even reference it when they're trying to defend SAO. I'm like, don't do that. This arc has no meaningful place at all in the entire story. There's not one thing that you are missing. You can literally, it's filler. That's what it is. You can skip the entire fucking arc and you don't miss out much. The only episode you need to watch is 25 so that you get the aftermath of SAO. Specifically, after the time skip. Anything else you don't need. You don't need it. You're going to lose a little bit of context, but ultimately, it's better to lose the context than to suffer. So, that's my thing. I do not feel the same way that I felt. I was being nice. I will not be nice here. So, there's that. Also, check out Mother's Basement and Anime America. They're cool. But, well, if we start with the overview here, I said there's a couple good things about the arc. Now, I do want to say I am going to be criticizing myself a lot because this script sucks. So, yeah, I mentioned that I mentioned here's what's good about the arc, right? And then I'm like, oh yeah, here's some more good stuff about the arc. But yeah, there are a couple good things. I think the beginning half of the arc isn't terrible. Like, it's passable. It's fine. It's got some good moments. Not enough to justify the arc, but there's a couple. Animation's fine until the climax. Voice actors do a good job. Jeremy Lay is my goat. But getting back into what sucks, because that's probably why you're here. Characters are trash. That's true. The plot is abysmal. That's also true. And going into that more, Eugene's whole subplot is pointless. It doesn't need to be here. Why is Kirito doing this? He is in ALO to specifically save Asuna. Why is he going on a side quest? Is it because he has a good heart? That's cool. I've heard that story about 5,000 times already today. So I don't care. He's going for the sake of going because that's how the plot has to happen. If your characters do something, it's gotta be believable that they're going to do it. Right? Like, there has to be some valid reason. And I will say, this is actually kind of built up. Because Kirito suggests trying to get the different races together to raid the world tree. Granted, it's for his own selfish, purpose. But to do that, yeah. Or he suggests the idea of doing that, actually, as, like, just a theory, and then Leafa shoots it down. And that actually comes to pass. That's cool. However, this feels forced. Not to mention, Eugene doesn't have a personality besides, oh, he's grumbling, he's the best player in the game, and Kirito beats him, even though he's been playing the game for like a week. It's like, give him a goddamn challenge. Because ultimately, it's boring. Because all he does, he struggles a little bit because Graham is a fucking OP sword. And then he grabs Leafa and, oh yeah, by the way, he wins. And I'm just like, okay, cool, whatever. Who cares? This gets Alicia and Sakya to help him raid the world tree, but ultimately, that's all it's used for. And this whole thing is set up from the beginning, and the payoff is minimal. Why are they here? You haven't developed the cast from Aincrad. Don't introduce 50 more characters until you develop the others. It's simple writing. It is a simple mistake that Reki Kawahara makes, and it's these simple mistakes that add up and make the show the shitty show that it is. So, ultimately, this sucks. Eugene sucks, and he doesn't need to be here. It's an irrelevant subplot. And that gets me into Lucia and Sakya. Now, I will say, with this whole subplot, this would have been a great way to make ALO feel like a world that's lived in, that a game that people play. If you introduce, like, oh, these rivalries and all these races and they're fighting and the sort of history of ALO, it's like, oh, okay, Kirito's going into a world that's already established and it's its own thing, but instead, it just feels like, oh, it's a fairy version of SAO. And now here's Kirito. It's just like, it's just done poorly. It really could have been done to really just flesh out ALO and make it its own unique thing, but it's really only there as a catalyst for Kirito saving Asuna. And that sucks. I wish that it was built up more. I feel like that would have made it a more interesting sort of place to learn about, instead of just throwing a bunch of mythological references in there. And that can be done. It's good in the sense of a game, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I need more of that. But yeah, Alicia and Sakya are kind of the same problem as Eugene. They're kind of just there. Also, I've seen people say that, oh, there's not that many scenes of girls hitting on Kirito. It's not real. Alicia and Sakya both hit on him. They both do it. Leafa does it, Lisbeth does it, Silica does it, Sinon does it, all the fucking females in this series do it. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what you want to tell me. The proof is right there, you fucking dumbasses. Like, I don't understand. So, anyways, before I get too riled up, let's move on to, oh, Sigurd. How? What to say about him, right? So, Sigurd is genuinely, and I'm gonna criticize my script here really quick. I don't talk about enough of why this stuff is bad and don't really develop it. That's why I'm actually making this video, is to kind of make sure that I actually explain why this doesn't work. So, with Sigurd, the problem with Sigurd is that he genuinely he doesn't do anything. He's established to be a douche, makes Kirito look better because of it, and look like the hero. Oh, gee, great, thanks. I couldn't tell that he was the hero. And then he's used for this subplot, and then he's exiled, and then never seen again. He's never mentioned, he's never referenced, he's never seen again. Don't do that! You need to make sure that your characters have more relevance than that. That is not good. You're throwing away characters that could be used for more interesting plot lines. He is meant to be a traitor and nothing else. He has no personality. He is two-dimensional. Do not make two-dimensional characters, Ricky Kawahara. Don't copyright my video, Ricky Kawahara. But ultimately, that's just the big problem with a lot of these characters is they are two-dimensional and they serve one purpose. That's not what characters are for! They are not MacGuffins, they are not objects, they're not plot devices, they are characters and they are people, or other creatures, that have personalities, they have goals, aspirations, dreams, fears. That's what you write, that's how you write a character. That's the problem. I'm jumping ahead a lot because I'm gonna have to talk about this a lot more, but that's the ultimate problem with the characters is they don't get development. They're served for one purpose, usually. I'm going to criticize myself again here. Why did I mention Chekhov's gun? It's not a good example of it. The thing with Chekhov's gun is, the whole principle is that you establish something early in a story. This is kind of what was done with teaming up, the races teaming up to raid the World Tree. And that was done pretty well, I'd say. But basically, the whole principle with Chekhov's gun is that you want to utilize it to establish something and then bring it back in order for that, I guess, to, have more of an impact. You establish it earlier and the payoff is better. And that was sort of Anton Chekhov's sort of principle. And if done well, it's a really great technique. I suggest if you're a writer, I would suggest maybe trying it out. It's good. But yeah, I just feel like they're not utilized enough here. And if Sigurd had been established earlier, or really, you establish something like Kirito having PTSD, that could come back throughout the arc and have a payoff where he has to overcome that PTSD. That's sort of the thing that Ricky Kawahara needed to do. Establish something early on and then have it pay off later. There's a lot of Chekhov's guns he could have used, needless to say, but I'll move on here. Mention that. Now we gotta talk about Reckon. Why is he here? He serves the purpose of being a romantic interest, but not really for Leafa. Basically, she bullies him. But genuinely, I wish that Reckon actually would have been added to the main cast. Imagine if he became a part of the group. That would have been kind of cool. If you really want to, and I know Mother's Basement suggested this too, have Leafa get with him. That would have been much better. He has one cool scene where he does the self-destruct, and I like that scene. That's nice. I want more of that. Let the other characters do something. Give them a personality. It's not the Kirito show. This is not Dragon Ball GT. It's not Goku time. It's not Kirito time. It's not anyone time. This is why I prefer ensemble cast, because then everyone gets a little bit of a chance to shine, and that's what this show needs. Anyways, speaking of Leafa, we're going to talk about her now. I don't like her plot. I think it's weird. I don't like incest. I know, controversial statement, but ultimately, I feel like it's just not... Her arc could have been so much better if they had just gone down the route that a bridge went down. I would have cared more about Kirito and Sugaha's relationship because it would have been more gripping, like, oh man, I really want them to make up, and once they do, there's your payoff! But they're never going to get together, so you don't get the payoff from that. It's also incest, so why? And I will remind you, incest is not incest in anybody's book, or at least it shouldn't be. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm mad. But anyways, the main problem with Leafa is that she's just underbaked. Let her be her own person. She does not need to be dependent on Kirito. Let her make her own choices. Let her do what she I guess, wants to do. And they kind of try that a little bit, but I wish we got more of it. Basically, what I'm saying is, I want to see less of Kirito, please, and thank you. So, my voice just cracked. I'm not going to get too far into the details, but again, it all comes back to the problem. These characters are underbaked. Now, another character that's also underbaked, but kind of in a different way, is Asuna. I am fucking pissed off about this one. Okay, with Asuna, right? So she's the damsel in distress. She has a couple scenes. They're weird. Like I said before, I actually don't care if these scenes are in at all. Even the big sexual assault in episode 24. Fine, whatever. You can have it, Reki Kawahara. But here's the thing. It has to fucking matter. It has to matter to some degree in a story. The characters have to change or the world has to change. And no matter what you say, these characters do not change in a significant way. In fact, I'll remind you, you barely see Asuna in the next arc. Sugo never gets mentioned again, maybe besides Alicization, in an almost completely unrelated way, I think. But he's really not mentioned again, because he's not important to the story anymore. He's in jail, who gives a shit? But ultimately, he has to fucking matter. He sexually assaulted a teenager. He was going to rape her. I'm losing my voice. I might have to tone this down a little bit. I'm getting a little angry. I'm getting a little feisty. But ultimately, the big problem with Asuna is that she just doesn't... One, she doesn't do enough, to be honest. I want her to do more. Her attempted escape scene was great. I loved it because it's like, oh, she actually kind of looks like a badass. And if you make her look like a badass in captivity, that's the Asuna we know. She gets captured. Maybe, you have those scenes of her tearing up because that makes sense. And then have her try to escape. If she fucking escaped during the arc, it's like, oh, she's a fucking badass. Throughout all the odds, she's able to get out of there and basically tell Sugo to go fuck himself. That's the power fantasy I want. But ultimately, it would have given her more to do, and it would have drifted the focus away from Kirito, which is what is needed here. And ultimately, it's really frustrating that Reki Kawahara doesn't do this, because there are, in my head, at least 5 sexual assault scenes, and not a single one of them matter. Because there's this one, there's another one that I'm not really sure about in GGO with Gabriel and Sinon. I don't know too much about it. I've only seen the flashback in Underworld, but yeah, there's that one. But then getting to the actual ones, there's Tis and Ranye in episode 10 of Alicization. That's fucking disgusting, mind you. Again, it's for Yu-Gi-Oh's benefit, not for their benefit. If that was the reason that they became Integrity Knights, they're like, oh, we don't want to prevent this from happening again. We really want to help, these abused, I guess, or hands, or whatever they are, assistants, or just, help, I guess, the little guy. Okay, that's nice. Develop them. Let them suffer. Let them grow. Let them experience the pain so that they can move past it and have their character arc. Please give them something. Yu-Gi-Oh! He fucking dies after his assault, so it doesn't fucking matter. And a little more tragic, but still. Then there's Sinon in War of the Underworld, which that one's not as bad. I won't mention it. But then there's the fucking tentacle scene with Dil, or Dil, and Lifa. I think in episode 1 of War of the Underworld. Now, I like that was kind of like Lifa's trick. She was like, oh yeah, well, I can't take damage like this. I can heal. But maybe if it affected her a little bit, maybe help that. Don't have it for the sake of having it. And just utilize it more. Utilize it more. Please, just let them have that trauma so that they can build off it and grow and have an arc. With Asuna specifically, it's like she forgot it happened. The next arc, I don't think it ever gets mentioned again. Never. Even after the fact that she was in there for months. months, I think. At least 1 or 2. And then, also you can hear my chair squeaking. I'm mad. I'm ready to fight. But, yeah, it's just so bad. I read somewhere, right, that, it was on Reddit, but still, I read that apparently in an interview, Red Kara said that he, initially in the light novel, this is back in the Ironclad arc, originally Asuna was going to be the one that kills Kuradel. Like her, retainer or whatever. And then it was changed to Kirito. Because Reiki Kawahara he didn't have any plans for Asuna to kind of experience that trauma. Reiki Kawahara, listen to me. If you ever watch this, and you won't, but if you do not write a sexual assault scene if you have no intention of having them go through that trauma, you fucking piece of shit! Because ultimately you are being a disrespectful loser when you do that. Because when you do that, you should be focusing on the victim. The person who is having experienced this. It can be a great moment of sharing awareness of this very traumatic thing that really happens to people. But no, you used it for some fucking twisted fetish and for fan service. Asuna never mentions this again. She doesn't change or grow from it because here's the thing, and here's the ultimate sin with this scene. It is focused on Kirito, so even if Kirito gets development from this, he should not be the one getting development. It should be Asuna. Asuna should be getting the development. If you give it to Kirito, you are ignoring the victim. Kirito also cries after, you fucking piece of shit, your girlfriend just got assaulted. Focus on her. Comfort her. She's the one that needs it. Not you and your sorry ass. It's mind-boggling that people will defend this. There are bad books that will do this, and yet people think it's fine when it's done in SAO. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? The big fix I have for this is make Asuna the main character of the arc. She's the one that needs it. Basically, what you could have done is have Asuna go through this whole thing, really suffer from it, and have to grow and try and get better. That could have been her character arc, and I would have been invested because I'm like, oh, this poor girl. Oh, man, she's getting better. Oh, she's overcoming her fear. Let's fucking go, Asuna. That is the show that I would rather watch because then you've got an actually dynamic and interesting character that you can follow and enjoy, not some fucking hero complex. It's just, I don't know. It's so frustrating. I'm gonna move on to Kirito now because my voice I'm losing it. So, Kirito, for the reason I mentioned before, he is focused on way too much. He is generic anime protagonist number 1500, and it's just, can we have a more interesting character? One in design, but two in character. He's treated, and also, one note, I say the word OP way too much in this video. Like, way too much. We get it, man. He's OP. Come on, whatever. But overall, it's like, why? Like, why focus on him so much? Let the other characters have their time to develop. Make them more interesting to sort of, I guess, complement Kirito. And then you could have made Kirito more interesting. Now, I will say, moments in Progressive and the, show Kirito having an actual fucking personality, and I actually really appreciate that. But we don't see it in this arc. He is the generic anime protagonist saving the damsel in distress. And like I said before, I don't mind that kind of story. I'm actually a sucker for them. I honestly probably use that trope way too much. But here, it's done in the most boring way possible, not to mention with a creepy, creepy sexual assault. Speaking of that sexual assault, actually, I guess I'm moving on from Kirito. That sexual assault, also, a couple things. One, Gary Stu, that is what Kirito would be since he wins pretty much every fight he's ever in. Don't do that with your character, please. Make him lose a little more, please. Another thing I would like to mention is why I ultimately talked about Tales of Vesperia. I don't know why I felt the need to include this, because honestly, Yuri and Kirito are not that similar. Design-wise, they're both completely clad in black, but ultimately, Murray, Yuri is, a more mature character. He's actually kind of unique within the Tales universe itself, as he isn't really learning about the world around him. He already knows about it and is, exploring it more. And I like that, but the thing is, he's treated like a badass. He is a badass character, but he has to suffer. He loses fights. He gets thrown in jail within the first hour of the fucking game. You can let your protagonist lose and then still show them being cool, because it's them losing that's going to allow them to persevere and be fucking badass. Let it happen, please. But anyways, that's why I mentioned it. I just wanted to compare a show. You can have a badass character that has, really fucking cool moments and let them suffer. They can suffer. Let your character suffer. It makes them more interesting. Now, talking about the climax. Sugo sucks. I think I said all I need to really say about Sugo. He's pointless. He doesn't get brought back up. And he is here specifically to be the obstacle between Kirito and Asuna. Again, two-dimensional. Honestly, maybe even one-dimensional. And about the plotline with, the scientists in the lab. When the scientists, this is their only appearance. It's okay, cool, great throwaway character, guys. Gotta love those throwaway characters in SAO. But the main problem with Sugo is that we don't really know what his plan is besides, being able to mind control people. He wants to sell it to some American company, but we don't learn more about that. It gets mentioned one time. Mention your subplots more. It's not developed well, because it ultimately ends up with Sugo's wanting to control Asuna's mind, and also Kirito's, and essentially make Asuna his slave. And it's okay, give me more of that. Where is this coming from? How is this being done? Show Sugo working on it. Show him more. Outside of the cage and the climax, show him being evil. Show him, his motivations, why he's doing this, more than just wanting to bang a 17-year-old. It's just, he is here for the sake of there being a conflict. And that's not a good and compelling villain. Kaiba, for all of his faults, was more compelling. He's he's trying to help them get through, and here's a big twist. Heathcliff is actually Kaiba. It's crazy. But where he falters is, where is his motive? And in some cases, his motive is, trying out, or I guess experimenting with the Arcana system, or was it? Yeah, I think it's the Arcana system. At least that's the motivation and integral factor. And it's if he had that motive, he'd be a good villain, because he'd be interesting and, I guess, more dynamic than what Sugo is, where he's a stereotypical bad guy, and I hate that. You can have a stereotypical bad guy, but, as the main villain of the arc? I don't know, man. I don't know. Specifically in Oberon's case, it's just I hate his design, I hate his personality, and like I said, there are just scenes of him that are so fucking ugly. It's just mind-boggling. So, kind of moving on a little bit to some of what I said about the climax. It's bad. It's just fucking bad. It's confusing, one. As a note, I was actually looking through and trying to figure out what he was doing, or what Sugo was doing during climax. So, there's a point where I'm trying to remember exactly when it is in the climax, but basically, there's a point where Sugo is, obviously he's licking Asuna's face, and he does it multiple times, and I don't understand. It's okay, cool, I guess. Usually when I think of sexual assault, I think of groping someone, but I guess that's a visual too, I guess. Sure. It's so strange. But there is a point, I looked at a frame, and it looks like he gropes Asuna's breast. I'm okay, well, there it is. I guess we're getting the full treatment today, I guess. But, man, he's evil. Cool. We already knew that. He's also a stupid villain in general. It's like, why does he give Kirito the chance to even save Asuka? It's like, to quote Anime America with an idea of hers, Mario situation, your princess is in another fucking castle. It's like, there you go, you can do that. But I reanalyzed, I think the scene right before Kirito passes out. I don't know if he's licking Asuka or if he's trying to kiss her. I don't know. It's so vague. The whole climax is, I don't even know where the fuck they are. They're on a glowing platform. And I know the glowing part is the gravity match, but it just doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. I'm confused. Make it make sense. I want to kind of take a brief aside now as well to talk about another point I made about the different, like, references to mythology. I mostly talk about it as a way, it's like, okay, this is a neat idea, but I just find the use of Excalibur very boring because it is literally just used to glorify Kirito and make him look like this moral saint and an honorable fighter by giving it to Oberon. I don't know. It's so dumb. Again, as a reminder, the climax is not a fight because Sugo wails on Kirito, Kirito wails on Sugo. That is not a fight. That is not a climax. It's just, I don't understand. But I mentioned some of the references specifically. I don't really know why I talked about Shakespeare. I just felt like talking about Shakespeare, I guess. But with Shakespeare, I mentioned Midsummer Night's Dream, which is where Oberon and Titania come from. I assume that Reki Kawahara, he looked up Fairy King and Fairy Queen, got that, I was like, that's what I'm going to name them in the game. I'm like, okay, cool, I guess. Could use like a name generator, but that's fine too, I guess. But yeah, so I don't mind the reference per se. It's kind of a neat thing, but ultimately, I just find it funny the fact that both Oberons are like trying to control their wives. It's like, the eternal cycle begins. So, yeah, I guess that's why I mentioned that. I don't know, man. But, yeah, again, going back to before the climax even starts, I like the scene where Asuna reunites with Kirito and Yui. I think it's very sweet. It's a sweet scene. It really helps establish, this is the first time she's seen them. This is a happy reunion. It makes sense. And again, unfortunately, it's ruined by the climax happening and everything, being chaotic. I think that Mother's Basement's version of the climax where Asuna has to fight Kirito, because she's mind controlled, would have been better. That would have been better. That would have been more interesting. Genuinely. I think that's a really good idea. Someone should write that. It would have been a good idea to have, because Kirito mentions that Asuna is stronger than him, probably. And it would have been a whole thing, have Yui go away and, be able to have Kirito log into Heathcliff's ID. That would have made more sense. So, again, go check out his videos. He's got some really good ideas about how Fairy Dance probably should have gone. But that sort of thing is the thing you really want to, pay attention to and really think about in your writing is, how does this make sense? How does this happen? Again, make it make sense. If it doesn't make sense, your reader gets confused. If your reader or viewer or whatever gets confused, well, who cares? I don't know what's going on anymore. So, kind of moving along down. Yeah. Getting to the manga. Now, there's a couple of points I want to mention. I mentioned earlier that Asuna tells Kirito to log out and reveal the conspiracy. I tried to go back and look through the anime and find where she says that. I could not find it for the life of me. That might have only been in the manga. And I can confirm it was in the manga. I read it. It's not too far away from the line. But basically, I don't know. I don't know where I heard it. It might have been a Mandela effect. It might have just been from the manga. I thought it was in the anime. That just might be my mistake. Another point I want to mention is with Excalibur, because I don't know whether or not it got introduced earlier, because I read on a wiki a couple years ago that apparently it was introduced when they were exploring, and Lee was like, oh, no, that quest is too strong. I don't remember that ever being in the anime at all. So Maybe it was only in the manga. I don't know about that one, but regardless, it's not established well enough before the climax. Again, Chekhov's gun. So, it's about to become a... This is going to become a masterclass on how not to write an anime. But the last part of the manga I want to talk about, again, it is drawn better. Again, that's not an achievement, mind you, but it is drawn better than the anime was. And it made it a little bit more palatable. I still don't recommend reading it, though, obviously. But getting back to the manga, there's a line specifically that I fucking hate, and thank God this is not in the anime, but I'll reread it for anyone that didn't watch the other video, but it is, first I shall steal the purity of your heart, and then I ruin... It's actually, the line is, first I steal the purity of your heart, then I ruin the chastity of your body. One, I don't think that's correct grammar, but I'm not going to be a grammar police about this, but I'm going to quote myself here. What the fuck? You like that? But again, he's saying he's going to rape her because that's what that means. If he says he's going to ruin the chastity of your body, chastity means you don't have fucking sex. So he's saying he's going to have sex with her. She's 17. She can't consent. She's also unconscious. She can't consent. That, my friends, even in Japan, is statutory rape. It is statutory rape. Don't do that if it's not gonna fucking matter. That's fucking disgusting. I don't fucking understand you. It is just really bothersome, honestly. But I'll move on here. Talked about the animation. Got the rest of the climax. Kaiba appearing. We're gonna talk about Deus Ex Machina now. Kaiba appearing and and essentially allowing Kirito to log into his ID is, objectively speaking, a Deus Ex Machina, because it is a sort of plot point that was not previously established, coming back and saving the day and giving Kirito his power to overcome his, an impossible odd. This is the example of a poorly done Deus Ex Machina. Like I give the example for, Dragon Ball is a Deus Ex Machina that does somewhat well because it was established and built up and then it happened. And so, using Chekhov's gun here, Deus Ex Machina. One of the most iconic scenes in anime. I don't understand why Reki Kawahara just has this whole, phobia of trying to establish things and actually write things well. But I digress. It's just really frustrating. The arc ends, and they go back into ALO for some fucking reason, even though they just got out of a death game, a couple months prior. But, good old Reki Kawahara. And, yeah, I would like to mention, specifically in the outro, I must say, when I recorded this, I had not thought, or when I wrote this, I had not thought of making the, Drift King gets a roof repair video. That's why I called it my first video. It's my first real video that got blocked globally. Thanks, Aniplex. But anyways, that's kind of sort of more of what I wanted to talk about. Ultimately, and I'm ultimately going to get into the biggest problem in this arc. There's no impact. It doesn't affect the characters in a significant way, but more importantly, it doesn't affect the world. You would think after Death Game that killed about almost 5,000 people, you would think that, actually it was probably closer to 4,000, but you would think that there would be some sort of call to get VR MMOs banned, but we don't see that. We don't see the consequences of SAO because there are no consequences. It's not treated with the seriousness that it probably would be treated with. And you can say, oh, you gotta suspend your disbelief, it's fiction, but it doesn't matter because it's not compelling. I don't care about this because clearly no one else cares. There are some ramifications later and stuff like Orbital Scale, but it's we need more of this. It needs to be a challenge, and if the characters really want to keep VR MMOs around and cherish the reason that they all know each other, they can fight for it. Let them fight for it and show, hey, we can revitalize VR MMOs and we can show just how beneficial and safe they can be in the right hands. But no, instead we get this plot device with the world seat that barely makes any fucking sense. And it's just not compelling in the slightest. It sucks. It's such a bad, I would honestly call it not a cop-out, but it's just a really bad way to develop the story along. It's a contrivance. And when your plot starts to have contrivances, you have failed as a writer. I think that's about all I have to say for this video. I had to take a break with how much I was screaming. I do apologize for the screaming. I had a lot of feelings to get out, but I had to take a break and get something to drink. My voice was starting to hurt. But I do apologize also for the rambling. This video has gone on way longer than I thought it would. Whole mess. But I appreciate you all watching and enjoying. And I hope that I can keep making videos. I'm not sure if I can. I'm not really sure what the plan is right now, but I'll let you know in time. Hopefully I'll stream more soon as well. I actually did do a stream. I don't have a schedule right now. I don't plan on making one for a while, but we'll see what happens, honestly. And yeah, this was definitely a journey. There was a lot of challenges, trials, and tribulations, and I'm hoping that I can get the dispute resolved. If not, I'll probably be letting you all know, but I'm sure it'll be resolved by the time this video comes out. So I guess you'll know whether or not the video's up. Anyways, I appreciate you all watching. Go check out the original video if it is available. I would really appreciate it. And if you've watched all the way to the end, I commend you, good sirs or madams. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. So, appreciate you all watching, and I hope you all take care. Bye-bye for now.